Hello and welcome to our presentation on the changes to the Lockout Tagout program. After hearing some safety concerns about our old Lockout Tagout regime, we decided to implement some changes to address these safety concerns. We've made some changes to the procedure, as well as some new terminology associated with our Lockout Tagout program. We now have made changes to the energy control log and who controls that. We're going to use real danger tags. And we've implemented some new forms to control lock cutting. Some key changes to the Lockout Tagout program are really what is the lockout here at the WPCF and who the lockout holder is. A lockout is essentially permission for others to perform maintenance or inspection after equipment has been isolated from hazardous energy sources and rendered inoperative. And a lockout holder from now on will be operations, as operations owns all the equipment and grants permission for others to manipulate, inspect, or repair equipment. A lockout device is a device applied to an energy isolation device capable of accepting multiple padlocks. It should be durable, survive in outdoor environments, and be constructed to be substantial enough to prevent removal without excessive force or unusual techniques. As it was before, a lockout tagout incident is just simply any lockout tagout error that jeopardizes personnel or equipment. A danger tag shall be applied to every lockout in the field along with an operations lock. At a minimum, it should say on it who requested the lockout, what equipment is it locking out, and a work order number if possible. This will help us track this information in the field as well as the energy control log. Let's talk about the energy control log, which used to be located in SCADA. The responder will now tote this around, along with all the other active lockout tagouts. You can find the form under Addendum Alpha in the lockout tagout revision. You just need to record some basic data on this sheet, such as who's performing the lotto and when, who's requesting the lotto, expected duration of the work, equipment to be isolated, description of the work to be performed, isolating devices such as valves, breakers, switches, etc., and the work order number to help us better track lottos. An energy isolating device is what you would expect it to be, such as a valve or a switch or a breaker. Hazardous energy sources are electricity, high pressure, high temperature, any energy source or potential energy source that could cause harm to personnel. One of the new changes will be the definition of padlocks. Isolation padlocks are what operations will be using to lock out devices. Operations will have a common set key-to-like padlock to apply to energy isolating devices, whereas your personal padlock, what you're used to using, will be added in addition to the isolation padlock provided by operations. Operations will lock out, and you will follow with your personal padlock. Responder or designee. Essentially, these are personnel identified by the plant O&M manager or supervisor who are capable of performing lockouts. If you are responder qualified, you are able to perform lockouts. You'll use a tagout only when the energy isolating device cannot accept a lockout, like a switch. Temporary release of lockout for testing is pretty self-explanatory. This may be granted by SCADA and the responder on a specific piece of equipment when you need to temporarily take it out of lotto for testing. So you want to perform a lotto here at the WPCF, or maybe even ask for one. What needs to happen? Well, first you need to be trained on the current energy control procedure. The reason why we're going over this is because we need to retrain in the event of any changes to the energy control procedure. Familiarity with compliance merely means that please don't violate any lockout tagouts. If there's an energy isolating device, please call a responder and have it removed. When equipment is replaced, modified, or new equipment is installed, that new equipment must be capable of accepting a lockout device. Understand that danger tags, padlocks, shall never be bypassed. Let's talk about authority and responsibility. The authority to grant or deny requests for equipment lockout and/or release is maintained on the whiteboard outside the O&M manager's office. This authority is normally granted to qualified plant operators and ESTs. All personnel involved with lockout tagout are responsible for ensuring the equipment is properly isolated from hazardous energy sources, and ensuring the equipment is relieved of potentially hazardous stored or residual energy. Make sure that it is locked out, tagged out before performing maintenance or inspections. Everyone is responsible for these aspects of lockout, tagout. As it is commonplace now, anybody who wants a lockout, tagout must ask a responder qualified person to perform that lotto. Here's where we see some of the small changes we've made to the energy control procedure. When asked for a lockout, a responder shall review the applicable procedures, render safe all hazardous energy, attach the lockout devices, in this instance the new set of operations logs, complete the lockout in the energy control log, which used to be in SCADA but now will be carried around by the responder. They will monitor the equipment and notify the lockout requester that the lockout is completed.
And here's the new form. It's got a place to document who's doing the lotto and when, who asked for it, how long is this lotto expected to last, the work order number, the equipment, work to be done, lotto requirements including the number of locks and tags. Furthermore, the new form has a safe to release reminder list to assist the person clearing the lockout. And finally, this form will be in the binder that stays with the responder.
So you've asked for a lotto and the responder claims to have done it for you. What are you going to do? If it was me, I'd ensure that it was actually locked out and tagged out properly. I'd ask for it to be started if I didn't witness it myself. Once I'm satisfied, I would attach my personal padlock and continue to monitor the equipment to ensure that it is de-energized. Sometimes there will be a need to temporarily release a lockout, usually for equipment testing. If the SCADA operator and the responder agree, then the responder can verify that the equipment is ready for testing. They'll do this by verifying that the employees have removed their personal padlocks and that these equipment can be aligned for testing safely. Once the lotto is removed and testing is complete, the responder shall notify all affected personnel and decide to return the equipment to a lockout tagout state or close the lockout.
Your work is completed and the equipment is ready to return to service. What do? Remove your personal lock. Notify the responder. Before a responder releases a lockout and removes the operations lock, they must get eyes on and walk down all relevant equipment, ensuring that components have been reconnected, guards have been replaced, piping and tubing is intact, valves are in proper position, as well as ensuring that no personal or contractor locks or tags remain. Once these steps are complete, the responder may remove the tags, operations locks, and lockout devices. Finally, close out the log.
One procedure we've been lacking and finally have remedied is what to do in the event of an employee being off-site while we need their padlock removed from a lotto. Well, under the direction of an O&M supervisor, we will ensure that the employee is in fact off-site and away and unavailable. We'll make all reasonable efforts to contact them via their cell phone on record, or we email them and their associated supervisor to verify that they are unavailable to return to site in a timely manner to clear the lotto. Then we'll fill out a fun new form, Addendum B. This is simply a notification form that someone's lock has been cut while they are away, and that they will know, once upon returning to work, that one of their lockout devices is no longer active in the field. In the rare circumstance that a lotto must be released before a piece of equipment is operationally intact, an O&M supervisor must be notified and approve of the lotto release and must ensure that it is in a safe state before releasing the lotto. Locking out equipment for contractors is the same as locking it out for anybody here at the WPCF. Please follow the same rules in the energy control procedure. Plan Plant O&M supervisors will annually review the energy control procedure and perform periodic inspections in the field to ensure the lockout-tagout program is still relevant and being used properly by all personnel. Understand that lockout-tagout incidents are serious, and willful violation of these policies and procedures may result in disciplinary action. Changes to the energy control procedure shall be approved by a plant O&M supervisor and a safety and health officer. Understand that these changes were brought about by you, people who were concerned about the current state of the energy control procedure and wanted change. First, I'd like to thank all those who lent their voices in changing our energy control program. Many of you have helped review and provide suggestions to make our lockout-tagout program more in line with industry norm. Most of the changes revolve around operations and the way they handle lockout-tagout. Now, any responder qualified personnel can perform lockout-tagout, but the designated responder for the day will have all the lockout-tagout devices and energy control log with them. Those are pretty much the biggest changes we've made. Operations will be the first one on and the last one off because operations owns all the equipment and grants permission for others to work on those pieces of equipment.
In summary, lockout is essentially permission for others to perform maintenance and inspections. A danger tag is used now for every lockout. The energy control log will be carried by the responder. Isolation padlocks are red in color and owned by operations. Everybody is responsible for lockout procedures. The red isolation lock will be attached by the responder. Yellow personnel locks are attached after the red isolation lock. It is permissible to temporarily release a lockout. When ready to release the lockout, remove your lock and then notify the responder. Lock cutting is a multiple-step documented process.
If there are any additional questions, a big fat guy will now get up and grab a microphone and answer any questions you may have about the energy control procedure and nothing else.
Employee participation. If you have any suggestions to make this training better, notify your supervisor or your trainer.